Hello, legends and super legends. Another Friday live Q&A. I hope you guys have had a good week. Had a lot of rain in our area here. Let's see here. It's been raining for at least a week here every day, which is very unusual. Last week we did ride, but it was just Paul and I. We just did our own thing. Really didn't feel like filming much because we've already done like a rain ride concept a few weeks earlier. We did that, so we're just trying out different equipment as far as making sure what keeps you dry, keeps the rain out, that kind of stuff. So that's what that was about. But all the local guys basically canceled group rides and so forth. So it rained all week. We've got a lot of mosquitoes in the area because once you have a lot of water sitting on the side of the road, the mosquitoes hatch once the rain stops. So it's been kind of muggy now that the rain has stopped. We're riding tomorrow. It's supposed to rain again. There's always rain in the forecast, it seems, since we had those depressions in the Gulf. So hopefully it will settle and we'll get a lot of, I guess, our typical weather because summer is here. The Memorial Day weekend really kind of unofficially begins summer. Summer is actually around, I think, mid-June, like June 22nd, officially on the calendar. But today's the last day of school for the kids in our district. So they're off for the summer. So I decided to do this live session before we weekend to kind of get everybody going. Let's see who we have on here. Michael, welcome. As usual, we will give preference to the channel members and the super chatters. So as we get busier, we'll focus on those people and answer their questions. So I hope you've been able to get some K's in. So even with the rain, I have been riding whenever I can. I don't let the rain stop me. From Pennsylvania, welcome to our Q&A. So basically, getting ready for the weekend, I'm torn between whether I'm going to change those wheels or not. When it rains a lot, I don't like to ride with my best wheels. The main reason is it just keeps the grit off the surface of the rims. And just like having like a Sunday suit, I have training wheels that have more wear on them. I'd much rather use them in the rain because you get a lot of grit on your wheels. It's not going to tear it up, any more per se, but I'd much rather use well-worn wheels in rainy weather than my nicer, fancier wheels. That's unless I get caught out there and it's raining. So that's why those are on there with training tires, Ultra Sport on them. They ride really, really well, even though they're not very expensive pair of tires, but they have really good rolling resistance and road feel. So I like that. Shani said, due to that vaccine, I don't think I'll get anything in this weekend. Well, I don't know what vaccine you took. My wife had I think she had the Moderna vaccine, and it didn't bother her at all, and she's had both shots. So it depends on what you take. Everybody reacts differently. So I believe all had the shots. I heard that the Moderna vaccine is better or easier on you and whatever. So that may be the one, to take if you're worried about side effects. But everybody's the thing about the vaccine, just be careful. It's not a cure. It just means that if you do get it, you won't have to be necessarily hospitalized or really knocked down. You can still get it. You can still transmit it. So some people have it, I guess, misconstrued that, oh, I'm all vaccinated. That means I can go crazy and start hanging out in bars and all that kind of stuff. That's not what it's going to help you get through it easier if you've been vaccinated. But it's not a free for all. And some people are acting like it is. I mean, some of the leagues are opening up all the stadiums and all of that. So whenever I go to public places, I do still wear my mask because that's as far as we know. That's a good preventive measure. So just be cautious. So Daniel says he wrote every day after he got his first vaccine, but everyone reacts differently. Yeah. And it depends on which vaccine you got. I mean, I think they had to pull one of them off the market. I think the Johnson and Johnson, because a few people had blood clots or something, and it's back. So it's different for everybody. It's just like the flu vaccine. Well, I shouldn't say just like, it's a vaccine. I never got the flu until I got the flu vaccine one year. It knocked the vaccine gave me the flu. But that's a different kind of vaccine, because that was actually, I think the flu vaccine is actually made from the strain, whereas this is a different thing. It's not made from the disease. So it's complete, and it's supposed to boost your immunity to where you can handle it. So for example, if you're a couch potato and you're sitting in a car, you're smoking, you're doing all kinds of stuff, you're overweight, and you get sick, anything that gets you sick, not just this COVID, it will knock you down easier than somebody who's active, like Daniel, who's out and about regularly. You'll be able to cope. So if you're already fit, you can deal with adversity a lot easier because your body's stronger. It doesn't mean that you should put yourself at risk, but what I'm saying is that the vaccine gives a boost to your body's immunity against that particular disease. So just like physical fitness will give you a boost to fighting now, that's the way you have to look at it. And it does affect everybody differently. So we can all get in contact with some regular disease, non-COVID disease, and then get knocked down differently based on just your genetic predisposition and so forth. So, it's a science. So just take everything with a caveat and be cautious. That's all. They don't know. They're still learning. That's the way science is. She said the first dose was good. The second one. Yeah, and then they're talking about booster shots. Some people might need them. It's all speculation, because of what they may be getting exposed to and all of that. So we have to be cautious. You guys heard what was going on in India. They got a little careless and started doing rallies and other things. And India is a very heavily populated place. So the density of people is there, and they just got slammed, So we all have to be cautious. Yet we have to, so when I go to Walmart and places, I put on my mask. Whether they require it or not, I don't give a crap about that. I require it for me if I'm around people in an enclosed space. I don't care about what the stores require or don't require, because our governor here in Texas has just removed all mandates. So you can't force anybody to wear a mask. You may ask them to leave your store if you choose to, but I doubt if they'll do that. So we see people that are not masked in. The challenge with that is France, which I think is a joke. They have a sign on the door that says, please wear a mask. But then when you get in, you got to take off the mask to eat. So what's the point? So we either order out, or when we go to a restaurant, we sit outside if they have patio seating. So we check for that. And those are the restaurants we patronize, order in. Because it doesn't make sense. If you're in an enclosed room, walking in with a mask and then taking it off to sit and eat a meal for, let's say, 2 hours, that's a long exposure there to people, because, you're still in the same space. So it's just kind of, so just use your own, common sense and what you're comfortable with. Let's see here. Yeah, G-Man says they're saying you might need a third dose. That's probably the booster shot. That's why I'm saying it's science. They're trying to figure it out. The best thing you can do is protect your family, protect yourself, and just be cautious when you're in very close parameters to people you don't know right now. Being outside, I think you're okay as far as we know. And so what we do, even on the group rides, we don't really film the stops because we don't stop with these guys that much. But when we stop, we're outside. And for us, we carry everything we need. So we just go in the store. We don't hang out in close proximity inside anywhere with people. I think as long as you do that, you should be okay until this stuff gets figured out. Because, we're still learning all around the world. So let's see here. Alpine, welcome. Yeah, Shani, I think it's like a booster shot. They're saying some people might need a booster shot to boost efficiency of the shot, but you may not need it. I think, they don't know. They're saying that as they learn more, they think 2 may not be enough. So even if you have taken it, still be cautious, because I read up. I don't watch the news. I like to go online and read the articles where you get all the details. You get the shot, you still need to practice the same distancing and wear the same masking and all of that, because what's good about the vaccine is that there won't be a run on the hospitals if people get exposed. So when they start talking about herd immunity, they really should not use that phrase, because I think what it really means is that all of us are going to be able to tolerate this illness more, to where we're not on ventilators. That's why the rest of the world are asking for the U.S. and other countries to ship vaccines to them, because we need to do the whole world. The disease knows no bounds, So yeah. Anyway. So let's get back to cycling here. Let's see. First cycling question here. Barkman. He said, is it okay to use those serrated sharp teeth brake washers on carbon frames to keep rim brakes from moving? I don't know if you need that to keep it from. I'm not sure why it's moving, unless it doesn't matter what frame you have. The way it works is you've got a nut and you've got a bolt. A lot of it is recessed, because I'm assuming you're talking about, well, what is the front or the back? Let's say the front. You got the fork. And so you've got a longer Allen bolt that screws into, it's like a shell. Because I have a carbon fork right there that has the actual nut is very long, because it has to accommodate the thickness of the fork. And then the bolt comes from the other side. The two of them should make and keep everything tight. So if your stuff is moving, you shouldn't need anything serrated to hold it in place. You don't want to damage your carbon, because one thing about carbon, remember, is layered. So you don't want to start chipping it, and it'll take a lot for it to unravel. But I think you got a missing part there. If your brake's moving, check with your LBS. Take the bike in. It shouldn't take them that long. They should have it in there. The shop parts, they should be able to get that, because there's a nut and a bolt that keeps it together, and the shell of it mates with the hole in the fork, to where it should not move when you tighten them, because it presses against it. I know what you're talking about. Some of them have the serrations in there. It just better grip against the bike, whether it's a frame, a carbon frame or steel frame, does not really matter. It stops the washer from spinning on you. But you should be using 2 tools to avoid that from happening. One holds the bolt in place, and then you screw it in. So you can use an Allen key or whatever. So something's missing from your setup if it's moving. It should not be moving. But it should not be super tight to where you can't move the brake with your hand, because we adjust our brakes like that. You shouldn't have to torque that to keep it from moving. So if it's moving too easily, then maybe get some help to look at it. That's not really the norm. You should just be able to tighten that kind of almost like with 2 fingers. I don't use a lot of torque on those little bolts. Just 2 fingers, and it should hold in place. I have one back in there, but it's a campy setup. But basically, I think you know what I mean. They go through, and the nut holds in place. So that's why it's moving on you. It's not the frame that holds it in place. All right, let's see here. Favorite saddle. Right now, my favorite saddle is the dynamic model from SMP. That's what you see on my bike. So behind there, that's what's up there. I have them all the same brand on all bikes. It just feels best right now. I've used all kinds of saddles, and some people have several favorites, and some riders use different saddles on different bikes, but I like to keep things the same, because it helps me replicate my point in space on each bike. So all the dimensions of my bike are slightly off. It's hard to get them exactly the same, because they're made by different people. But as far as how they fit me, they're the same. The measurements of the saddle to the bars and all of that, they're all the same. But I arrived there by using different stem lengths and so forth. But you can do that if you keep the saddle model the same, because then you can set your setback correctly on each bike. So yeah, the SMP Dynamic is my favorite saddle. G-Man, do you think tubeless can really run at low pressure? They say you can. I believe you can, but the problem with tubeless right now is that how practical is it for you to convert and give up all your current wheels? I mean, I have a lot of wheels, and from what I've read and what I've seen, you still need a carrier tube, because if you get a big enough cut, no sealant will seal that. So if I still got a carrier tube, what do I need tubeless for? They claim it rides better or whatever. I don't know. Take it with a caveat. But it's just a headache. It's harder to mount, and it can be messy because you got to use a sealant in there. So you got to really know what you're doing. And in certain cases, you might even need to have a small compressor. How many riders have that? So it's not very practical right now. All right. Let's see here. KJL. Welcome, KJL. You know, Burke, I haven't used the chain lift tool. I've had no reason to use that. I'm not sure why you would need it. Are you having a problem, or, I mean, maybe you can give us more details. I have not had a need to use the chain lift tool. Yeah, Shani says tubeless inverter. You know, there are a few people that have come on this channel that really like tubeless. So, you know, it's just that every time you change, let's say, forget tubeless for now. Let's say you're running 9-speed. I'm going to go back to 9-speed. So you're running 9-speed. Now, Campy has 12, I believe. And like right now, I'm using 11. Paul has 10 and 11. With Campy, it has been very easy going from 10 to 11, because the same wheels that I use with 10 that you see over there, all I have to buy an 11-speed cock set, and it fit, because Campy used the same space to accommodate. Basically, they changed the cassette thickness, so they got the 11-speed to sit in the same space as the 10-speed. So from 10 to 11, I didn't have to buy any free hubs or anything like that, okay? So every time you're changing the technology or whatever behind what you're using, you've got to consider all of that, because if you have 9-speed and you want to go to 11, it's not seamless. You've got to make some changes to your wheel, or buy wheels with hubs that will accommodate 11, because you can't go from 9 to 11. I think you could do 9 to 10 the same. So Campy made it easier. They were smart in how they did theirs. So from 10 to, I don't know what they did with 12. I don't know if you can still get 12 on those wheels. It's possible. Maybe they even made the chains thinner for 11. So going from 10 to 11 was not a big expense. You just had to buy the cassettes, and you could put it on the same wheels you owned. So that was easier to consider that. So when we're talking tubeless from regular wheels that you see back here, they're not set up. These wheels I have are not tubeless ready. And what they mean by that is the hook bead on the rim is set up to grab that tire so that you can get sealant in there and use the pressure to seat it. Well, because of that, it's harder to mount the tire and unmount the tire. So you need multiple tire irons and some elbow grease if you're messing with that on the road. I mean, I've seen that. I've worked on it, and I haven't worked on it. Nothing made me want to say, yeah, I want to convert to tubeless, because it was harder, and they charge you more to work on your tubeless because it's harder to deal with. And you are advised to carry a tube, because if you get a big enough cut, the sealant has a limit to how much it can seal. So you would need to put a tube in there anyway. if you got a big enough cut. So a lot of riders that ride tubeless carry tubes. There are riders now that once they put a tube in the tubeless, they just leave it there because they're able to tire and get the money out of it after that cut with the tube in there. Then if they would try to put another tubeless, it would be a new tire. So we have a lot of riders that ride with us right now with Team RR that ride tubeless tires with tubes in there, just so they can wear that tire down and get the money they spent getting the tubeless set up that got that cut early on, if that makes sense. So yeah, if you still got to deal with all of that, and I've watched them try to change it on the road, you've got to have some serious, you got to have these tire irons. I basically had to take it out of my bag and give it to the guy who were on a ride, and he had tubeless. You see the metal? Let's put it in the camera here. Right there. There's a little metal. This is a shop quality tool made by Park Tool, tire iron. He needed this plus 2 other ones to get that bead off that hook bead tubeless rim. The tubeless rim will take regular tires, but regular rims will not take tubeless tires because they're not tubeless ready, if that makes sense. But it's just, yeah. So it's something to think about if you're going to go that route. And I don't know if the ride they claim justifies. And I put 90, 95 psi. It's not a hassle. I don't think I need much lower pressure. So my tires ride great at that pressure. But I'm sure you could get better ride feel. It's kind of like people that ride gravel bikes. They use lower pressure because the tires are bigger or whatever. So maybe the tubeless technology allows you to put lower pressure in there and I'm sure you get the similar ride. So do I need to give up all my wheels just for that? Not right now. Maybe after they're worn down, I might consider it. But right now, it's just too much of a headache to convert. I'm staying with tubes for the foreseeable future. They're easier to deal with. Let's see here. Michael Mandarino says, any desire to upgrade it can't be super regular speed? Hell no. To carry another cog that I don't use? No. I don't even use the 11 I have. Which cogs do I use? Let's see. I ride that bike has a 3953. So most of the time I'm in this terrain anyway, I'm in a 5319 to a 5316. Because we're doing, say, 1.5 to 4 or 5% grades. So most of the time I'm between the 19 and the 16. So if I'm hammering a 4% grade, I'm probably in a 5319 or something like that. Anything bigger than that, I will be really lugging too much. And then the 5316, because of the wind, if I'm in the 5316, we're doing about 27, 28, 29 miles an hour, and I'm spinning it. So those are the gears I use most of the time. I rarely go in my 13s or my 12s. So what am I going to get out of another cog? And the expense of saying I got 12, since I only use 4 right now, most of the time, if that makes sense. And I'm saying 4 because you got to remember, I'm using the same 4 on the small ring too. Because when I come to a 7%er, I'm probably in my 17 and then I drop the chain to the 39. And that's like a 62-inch gear. So just do it on the next time you're on your ride. Try and see if you can figure out how many gears you're using. You will realize that we carry way more than we need. The terrain does not vary that much. Even if you're in the mountains, when you're climbing, you're going to be on a small chain ring, maybe in the middle, maybe if it's steep to the back. So I would take like 15 to say 28 as a good range. And how many gears are there? 7 maybe. We're not using all this stuff. There's 11 speed and all of that. Every now and then you may get in the 13, you get a good tailwind going down the hill or you're sprinting or whatever. But, remember that if you're in a 53-13 trying to start a sprint, you're going to get beat if you're starting in there because it's just too heavy to turn. You got to already be going before you get to that gear. So you don't need all of these things they're coming up with. The 12 is not a need at all. I don't think the 11 is a need. A lot of people riding around with 9 and 10, they're doing fine. Paul rides a 10 every now and then. He's got an 11. So I'm not going to spend the money just to say I got another gear. And then it's not just the cogs now. So let's say Campy, I haven't read up on the 12 because I have no interest in it, but I assume that they made things smaller to where you could fit it in the same space. So you don't have to stretch out your frame or anything. But now you need a new shifter. They're not cheap. And then chances are you're going to need a new front crankset, because they're gonna file those and get them lined up to where the cage of your front derailleur will accommodate the angles. So and then you need a derailleur back there. That's where the expense comes in. It's just, is it worth all of that? Is it worth having one more cog to carry? I have all the cogs I will ever need right now. I had them at 9 speed. So it's always just been a matter of, okay, this broke. Let me just my 10 speed got to the point where I took it apart, repaired some of the things in there, and it got to where it was just long in the tooth. They were years old. Camping lasts a long time, and you can rebuild the shifters. But it got to the point where it was not cost effective. I couldn't find the parts. So I went ahead and did 11 speed. I think I did 11 speed like 2015 or something like that. So I plan on just using them until I can't repair them anymore. And hopefully I won't have to go to a 12, because if you go to a 12, then what about your other bikes that still got 11 that work and all of that? So it's not a need. It's just a marketing thing. And, if you're getting a new bike and it comes with it, why not? Then you just get 1 or 2 wheels to work with that, and that's fine. But just say I'm going to change my existing, no, not going to happen. It's just not practical. All right, G-Man, you're welcome, man. So G-Man is the guy with the thing about tubeless. He says, sometimes the problems I have to seal my tire and I still bring a tube. Yeah, that's been my problem. And I'm not just saying because I read it or whatever. I ride with people that have tubeless. And I had to give the guy the thing I showed you. This is just from what I saw. Several occasions, several different groups over the years. So I'm like, if you're carrying a tube anyway, then what's the point? I carry a tube now. So why bother? I'll just use it until, So Burke Barkman says, I have 105 pedals, but I keep going back to riding on cheap flats with Converse chucks. Friends laugh at me, but I put the more watts with chucks. I don't know if you're necessarily being more efficient with those sneakers. There's no way. You can ride with them. I mean, Greg LeMond was second in his first local race behind John Howard, one of our great cyclists. And that's how he was discovered. It's like if he could take second place in sneakers, then they told his dad, you need to get him a bike because he's got the potential. So it is possible, but you're not being efficient. You're not more efficient because those sneakers dissipate your force. The sole is not designed for that. Doesn't mean you can't ride with them as you're, but not the most efficient. You're not really hooked in. You're not pulling back. You're not using the muscles. You're not attached. You can be more efficient than that, But it's a matter of. And you say you got 105, so I don't know how you're riding 105 pedals with sneakers. That's got to be uncomfortable. I can relate to you riding just the standard toe clips or flat pedals with sneakers, but the 105 pedals that are designed for clipping in, that's going to be a little hard to stay on you. So unless you guys are just riding around, but serious riding, you'd be hard pressed to keep up. Let's see. Christian Banga. Good morning, sir. How are you? Watching here from Japan. Welcome. I hope you guys are doing fine over there. I heard that the COVID cases were picking up in Japan, and because the U.S. said that people should not travel there. And I'm like, the Olympics are supposed to be in Japan this year. So we already missed it last year. People train for years to go to the Olympics. So it's not easy to just not go, Uncle Paulius, he said, rider weight versus power. Within reason, plus or minus 5 to 10 pounds, should rider focus on developing power or losing weight? I don't think you should worry about losing weight. If you want to develop power, the biggest thing is to do structured workouts that will develop the power. It's kind of like going to the gym and focusing on a certain kind of workout. I believe that consistent training and a decent, I don't want to say diet, a decent eating choice. Let's put it that way. I don't want to use the word diet because I don't want to be misconstrued that I'm saying you got to go on a diet. Your diet is what you eat. Just eat a balanced meal. Eat what you need. Don't overeat. Eat what you need and go ahead and focus on training consistently. You will drop the weight. Now, remember, as you train more, you're going to need to eat more. So you don't want to deprive yourself. You still have to make good choices so that you're not binging. If you deprive yourself, there's a chance to make poor choices. 9:30 at night when you're hungry, it's not easy to be disciplined. So you need to make sure you don't miss meals. So don't focus so much on that. I mean, if you're at the elite level, chances are you got a coach that you can work with and they can really, some riders used to weigh their food and all of that at that level. But I think that you just need to go ahead and focus on doing the workouts you need to build your power. I don't spend a lot of time looking at power meter. I only got that power meter to display for you all on the channel. I don't train with it. I just go out and I do it by feel. When I get up in the morning, I check my resting heart rate, especially on the days I'm supposed to ride hard. I say especially because I do check it every time. But I focus more. If today is the hard day, what is my body telling me? If my resting heart rate is elevated, what it means is not just the training, but something else going on in my life, whether lack of sleep, stress, whatever, has caused my body not to recover. If I'm not recovered, I'm not going to do that hard workout that day. It doesn't mean I won't ride, but I won't push myself very hard. I will do a milder workout. Now, what I'm getting at is I'm not the only one that does this. That's the way my coach taught me when I used to compete. He said, there is no point in you trying to, because when I go hard, even on the video, you guys really haven't seen me go hard because I will be out of camera range. And Paul and I talk about it all the time. So sometimes I'll go hard and I'll up, or just so we have something to show. Hard, we're talking zone 5 or just max. You're just going hard. Okay, that's different. The way we train when we competed is I was either going very easy or I was going very hard. I didn't do a lot of middle stuff, meaning I was either resting or I was giving it the stick. But in order to give it the stick and get the quality you need, your body must be rested. And it's not just from workout that you get that stress. You get it from life and other things. So you got to wait till you're best to really push yourself. There are a lot of riders, even now in the world tour, whatever. That's why when you watch the Giro or other things, you can see, like the other day, what's his name? Bernal had a bad day. It's the body. It's hard to predict. So the key is that when you get up, see if you're at your best before you decide what you're going to do. It's another reason I talk about somebody got dropped. Oh, yeah, I'm riding great because of, no, you're not riding great because somebody got dropped. If you're riding great, it's because of you and your numbers. Because it's all about you. Are you doing better? Are you putting out better numbers for that period of time? Better watts, whatever, however you're grading yourself. But you're grading yourself against yourself, not the other guys. Because you don't know why he pulled out. He may just be, like I just said, he may have gotten up that morning, got a high resting heart rate. Okay, I'm still going to show up at a group ride and maybe just sit in and see if I want to tolerate just sitting in the bunch. And then it gets too fast for him. He's like, you know what? I'm going to let him go because I'm not at my best today. So you can't gauge it by that. So, but it's important that you focus more on structured workouts, build your power. And that way, if you're consistent, your weight will settle where it needs to be. The key is making good food choices, regardless of how much training you do. Food, the quality of food you eat is important. Kind of like your car. If your car takes super unleaded, don't go put leaded gas in there. You would mess up the engine. So eat the best foods. So, best foods meaning a balanced meal, a lot of veggies. You need starches. I don't believe in this no carb stuff because I use the carbs to create glycogen. Because that's what you need when you're going very hard, So you need to make sure that that's important. All right, let's see here. What do we have? All right. Okay. I'm trying to get this thing adjusted. It's taking out my chat. Let's zoom out. All right. Here we go. So I hope that kind of cleared it up while I tried to get this thing to. There we go. Every week, YouTube comes up with a new surprise. You zoom in. There we go. Reset. Okay. I lost my chat stream, and I'm trying to get it to come back, so I can't see your comments right now. All right. It says it's trying to reconnect, but it shows that I'm connected fine. It just took the chat stream off the screen. Let's see here. Keywords inspect.